Welcome to Focus on the Five, conversations with Baldwin County business leaders and entrepreneurs, brought to you by Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. And now, Josh Knoll.
Hi everyone, welcome to Focus on the Five, conversations with Baldwin County, Alabama area entrepreneurs and business leaders. I'm your host, Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. We're coming to you today from the studios of WABF 1480, located here in beautiful downtown Fairhope, Alabama. If you live in or around Fairhope, there's a pretty good chance you've heard my guest today preach. But there's more to running a church than just putting on a good sermon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to take a behind the scenes look of how a church functions, what the business side is like, all that stuff. But before we dive into that, let's welcome our guest, lead pastor Johnny Hunt of Celebration Church. Johnny, how you doing?
Good, man.
All right.
Good.
Well, all right, so we're going to jump right into Celebration Church. For those listeners not familiar with your church, why don't you describe it to us?
It is a progressive church on the Eastern Shore here. We're around 500 members on a weekly basis. It'll jump some when school and all that starts, but we kind of will settle out and maybe move into 3 services. But the church has been around here for a long time, just several different names. But for the last probably 12 to 13 years, it's been Celebration Church. I've been there for 7 as the lead pastor I'm in my 7th year. February will complete 7 and go into 8. And my wife and 3 kids have been here on the Eastern Shore for that amount of time.
What's your wife's name?
April.
Yeah, we got a shout out to her.
April, yeah. 20 years.
20 years of marriage.
Absolutely, 20
so
years.
So you did like me, you got married in junior high.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the way to do it all the
time. 3rd grade. It was around 3rd grade. We wanted to make sure, you see something good, you don't want to lose it, right?
You better not let it go. Well, so if you've been married for 20 years, you've been pastor for how many years?
Been in full-time ministry for 18 and a half years.
Very good. So you started young.
Yeah, started young. April and I didn't grow up in church at all, so we didn't come from a Christian background or families that were rooted in the church whatsoever. We both are first generation Christian.
Would not have guessed that.
Yeah, we grew up in broken homes, broken families, dysfunctional situations, and my wife grew up in the same town from when she was born, started elementary all the way through high school. I was born in the same town as her, and then my parents got busted for cocaine in '88, and we, after coming out of jail, moved a business to another town, and we went 20 miles east of the big metropolis area of Rayville, Louisiana, to West Monroe, which is where Duck Dynasty is in West Monroe, so more people are more interested in that.
They weren't back then, though.
No, they were not near as famous. Actually, when Phil came in Walmart in West Monroe, no one wanted his autograph. They just thought he was a crazy guy. But so I moved to West Monroe, and played sports coming up through school, and then my freshman sophomore year got into rodeo full time, and so I rode bulls competitively for that season of my life until I became a Christian. Not because you can't do both, but for me, whenever I became a Christian, I kind of dove all in, and all of those other things kind of went to the wayside.
Well, let's talk about 1988. When your parents, you would have been very young.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did that have on you at the time?
Well, as a kid, you don't really understand how all that works. My parents were decently known in the area, owned several businesses, a screen printing shop, trophy shop, and then they were also in the bail bonding business.
Okay.
And so when my dad got busted in '88, they arrested my mom as well, come to her place of business, arrested her. I remember being in getting picked up, and we stayed the summer with my uncle and aunt, and when I turned 9 years old, my dad called where we were living. My mom got bailed out. Of course, they didn't tell us all this was going on.
Right.
They kind of hid it. I thought they were on a long business trip to Vegas. My mom comes home early. My dad calls me to tell me happy birthday. He was crying on the phone. I didn't know why he was crying, but So reached into that summer. My dad gets out, and we moved back. And so my whole upbringing was a little bit different at times because my dad, say the correct way, ratted people out, snitched them, narked them is the way you would say it in that
the bigger fish
setting, yeah. And even though it's kind of a long, weird story, really. He was involved with a smaller town police force people, and they were all kind of in it together. He gets busted, knocks out the other people that were higher up, and so it became a dangerous thing to where there would be times at night where our house would get shot at, and we would go down. And we didn't grow up in a rough part of the neighborhood or anything like that. We lived outside of town in the country of Monroe, Louisiana, but you hear gunshots and just go dive under a bed or something. And back in the day when they had water beds, right? The ones you filled up with water, and it was so you could lay underneath that ledge.
It led to a generation of back problems.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, so at a young age, you're dealing with that stuff. Did you get into the church at that point?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, kind of the opposite. My parents just kind of pursued, kind of rebuilding business and becoming involved in a lot of different things. Good people, good for the most part. I mean, it's hard to say good moral because they got busted for stuff like that, but for the most part, real respectful Southern gentlemen, real yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir. Yeah, just messed up and
that's probably guided the way you pastor, the way you lead, I would think.
Well, yeah, things not to do for sure.
Right.
And so you learn a lot. And my parents ended up divorcing after we moved from Rayville to Monroe. Don't know if you wanted to get into any of this, but we may as well just jump in it. So the way I ended up to where I was, or whenever I became a Christian, was my dad got caught in a hotel. This is kind of, I guess, just bearing it all, right, for everybody to hear.
Well, it's your story.
Yeah, it's a story. Everybody's got one. My dad got busted in a hotel room with another woman, and I was in the opposite side of the state in Shreveport area, a place called Converse, Louisiana. And on my way home, called my dad on a cell phone back when they used to connect to the dash.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, there's trouble in paradise. I got caught, and you need to meet me at Waffle House. Where else is a better place to meet than if we're going to be that redneck about it?"
That's right.
Everything's already happened. And met at Waffle House. He told me what was going on, and we moved out and bounced around for a little bit. And ultimately, my mom didn't end up forgiving him, and they ended up splitting. And so I went with my dad. I got 3 brothers, and I have an older brother, 2 younger, and the older brother's already moved out and moved on, married, and my 2 younger brothers stay with my mother. And we just kind of pursued our own life, doing our own thing, moved to West Monroe, Louisiana, went to high school there my senior year, and that was when I rodeoed probably the most, traveled every weekend all through the week. And I'd gotten injured a pretty good bit and needed just to kind of break. The guys that I travel with in rodeo, in the rough stock, you have travel partners, guys you ride with, kind of split expenses, and so you pay your own entry unless you get sponsors, but your travel expenses, whose vehicle you're taking, rotating all that stuff off. And one of my travel partners just said, "Johnny, you need to heal. You need to heal up. You're hurt. You've been hurt.
Physically and?"
Yeah, physically. Yeah, physically, and just from all the wear and tear that you go through. And so up to that point, even though I'd, in the whole part of riding bulls for a little over 5 years, just on the real competitive side of it was just a little over 3, where we were riding competitively all the time. And just turning 18, going through that season there, getting into, when I turned 19 was where I stopped a little through that part of my life. And it was through taking a break that I went to church with my mom's, it was my mother-in-law.
Okay.
She had started going to church, and there at a little church, and invited, and they kept inviting my fiance, and because they were on the outs, and she had started attending that little church. I didn't know anything about church, man. I mean, I was unchurched as they get. I mean, I grew up respectful, raised as just a good Southern guy. Help
the church
people.
Was a foreign thing.
No, absolutely. I mean,
so you're in a church. I'm gonna guess it was probably a church that would call for salvation, prayer at the end.
Absolutely.
So I think I know where this is going.
Dude, I had if you want to talk about, if you were doing a video on what not to do if somebody comes to your church new, they did it.
Okay.
Oh, so it's real twisted, kind of. It's good twisted though.
Right.
So that Sunday we're not traveling. I've decided to take 2 to 3 weeks off, see how much I could heal in that time. And I told April, I said, why don't we just go to church with your mom? And, because I try to mend the gap there. And,
Sure.
And you always want to be in good with the in-laws, outlaws, or whatever.
But something was calling you to.
Yeah. And so we went, and that morning we walk in church, and it was a small Pentecostal church. And so I'd heard stories about it,
Sure.
and we get there. And some of the odd things to me about church was, I thought Jesus was supposed to make you happy, and everybody was crying.
That's right.
In there. So I'm going, why are they crying? What are they doing? And people had their hands lifted. And so it was just, all right, cool. Nothing freaky, And then there was a couple of things that happened. And it's like, all right. But when the preacher preached the message, it just was so relatable. And just like it was speaking directly to me. But I still wasn't interested in responding. I just thought it was good.
Right.
Well, they reached the end, and they have everybody stand. And so we're standing there probably 3/4 of the way back of the sanctuary, and it's not a huge sanctuary, and it was a church the size that whenever people like me and April came in and weren't regulars there, you knew it. Everybody knew it. So they probably had their hands lifted the whole time praying for these two lost, dysfunctional people like us. Well, these two ladies come and get April and I by the hand, and they're crying. I'm talking about a good cry, though, that snot bubble kind of cry that just, just nasty face cry. And they're grabbing our hands, and they're pulling on us, saying, y'all need to come down here because your blood's not going to be on our hands. Well, I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't know what that meant. And I thought, who's going to cut me in this place? Like, what is happening? And then I go down, and they lead us to these benches in the front of the church, and we get on our knees, and I'm kneeled, and I still don't have a clue what's happening, Well, April is next to me. She starts crying. I'm like, why is she crying? Like, this is weak. Why is she buying into this junk? And I'm there at the altar, and these group of guys come, they start placing their hand on me. Well, I just kind of they think I'm getting it.
Right.
And I'm like, get your hands off of me, because where I'm from, guys don't touch each other.
Right.
Like, that didn't make sense. So we get through the altar, whatever that was, and they stand us up. I didn't become a Christian that day at all.
But you got pushed a little further along the road.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't. And again, I didn't leave there going, I need to get my junk together. I left there going, that's a little different.
Right.
And but he stuck a microphone in my face in front of the whole church afterwards and said, tell us your name. And I, of course, told him my name. And, we're about to get married soon. And just we come and visit. And that was about it. And we left. And in the process of planning the wedding and everything, my wife's grandmother held a membership at a different church, and in that style church, if your name was ever on the roll, you never got taken out of the roll, which meant that we could get married there for free. And since we were paying for our own wedding, we thought it's kind of a good deal. Yeah. Well, we didn't know the pastor whatsoever, never met him. And so we ended up asking the guy that preached that message the day that we got drugged down to the front. I liked him, and I asked him to marry us. And he said, I'll do it, but I need to meet with you at least 3 times. And the first time we met with him, we got saved October 28, 1998, 10:30 in the morning in his office there in the metropolis area of Rayville, Louisiana. So that's the long way around of what went down.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's I share it through messages that we preach, there at the church, through time. Everybody's got a story, and the most important one is that ultimately you get to share your story to tell his story. So,
well, I think sometimes when you have experiences like that, because you had a lot of chaos in your life, right?
Yes,
I think you come in, if you allow it to, it can create a much stronger foundation for what you're trying to do in your faith.
Yeah, I know the why behind the what.
There you go. So how'd you get affiliated with Celebration Church?
So Celebration Church, so shortly after, right about a year after becoming a Christian, felt God calling me into ministry, and which was a whole different experience, because to some people you say, well, God called me. I worked with a guy in the electrical business, and he said, well, did God call you, like on the phone?
Right.
I said, no, I felt like on the inside there's a voice telling me to preach. And so I went to Bible college in Springfield, Missouri. Left Springfield, Missouri, went on staff at a church in North Louisiana. We were pregnant with our first child. Left that church, went to Northwest Louisiana, and was there for a good season in Shreveport, and received an opportunity to go to Central Arkansas to a pretty good sized church outside of North Little Rock, and was there on staff and walked through some situations there that the church went through turmoil. And it was while I was there, transitioning from one staff position to another in the same church, received an opportunity and a call about Celebration here in Fairhope from someone that was on an overseer committee here at this church, because the church here had just really gone through a rough time, moral failure and stuff like that. So
took the call?
Yeah, man. Came
Were you
down.
familiar with this area?
Not at all. Never heard of it.
I'll be.
Had no clue whatsoever. We drove down on a Wednesday night. On a Tuesday night, middle of the night, and brought our kids and told them at a McDonald's at about 8:30, 9 o'clock in Dumas, Arkansas.
Right.
On 65.
I've been to Dumas.
Yeah,
it's not a good place to break big news.
No, it's our youngest
Dumas.
was. Dumas, you got a great McDonald's, by the way. That's about all there is. They had.
You said, "Hey, we're moving to Alabama."
I said, "Yep, we're coming to get voted on." So we came in. I met with the staff that was there. Met the church, did a meet and greet on a Thursday night. Came to the Mardi Gras here on a Friday night, which where I'm from, Mardi Gras gets crazy.
Right.
And here, people are giving my kids bees.
Very
I thought it was staged. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'd quit going because somebody tried to jerk my kid off my shoulders, grabbing a bee when he was real young. So.
No, they got great Mardi Gras around
here.
Yeah, man.
It worked out well. It was a good family event, good clean event, and then had a Q&A on a Saturday evening, and then Sunday preached both services, and they voted us in after that, February 13th.
Love it.
2013. So came in, been here, and enjoying it.
Perfect.
Time flies when you're having a blast.
Well, let's take a quick break for station identification. I want to talk about the business side of running a church. So for those of you just joining us here on WABF 1480, this is Focus on the 5, conversations with Baldwin County, Alabama area entrepreneurs and business leaders. I'm your host, Josh Knoll. I'm joined today by Pastor Johnny Hunt of Celebration Church. All right, so Johnny, growing up, I be honest with you, I grew up a little bit opposite of you.
Yeah.
So I grew up, one side of my family was Pentecostal, one side was kind of Baptist, my mom especially. Yeah. And I married a Catholic girl of all things. But I grew up very heavy in the church, right? And so quite a bit different. I mean, the church was part of my life from the beginning. So I got a lot of respect for you for coming around and finding that. So as you've gotten into your pastor, you've been being a pastor going on 19, 20 years, you've also had to handle the business side of the church. Something I never thought about as a kid, is my point. So I just thought the preacher got up and let it rip.
Yeah, man, let it go, and then all the other stuff works out, but that can get you in weird places like prison. And so the thing that's craziest about it, when someone feel the call, most of the time they don't feel the call to the business aspect of it. It's the loving on people, caring for people, preaching the message, the word that inspires you to inspire the other people. And one of the things that I try to share with people when they even talk about going into ministry is, sometimes the things you feel the most called to is the last thing you get to do whenever you're on the inside track of the church, because you have to deal with so many different elements from just the communication side of it. You guys all understand in business, you can't just hope something good happens on your big day and don't put any planning or any strategy into it or set culture for your company. All that stuff's is just as much more important inside the church. So I've seen a lot of fumbles in the short span of 19 years or so in full-time ministry. I've seen ministers be accused of mismanaging money. I've seen ministers have inappropriate relationships with, and all of these good people. And so what I did, instead of making them the enemy, I understand who the enemy really is. Right. But I learn from mistakes. 'Cause I feel like that's the goal, is that we learn from each other's mistakes so we don't repeat them in anyone else's, in our own life. And so we went to, it was real important to me to be accountable in every area of a church. And we walked into a situation that was a little bit unique too. And so we had to restore a couple of things, and put order to it. And one of the first things that we did was we set an internal board. And there was no internal board at the time in the previous administration of the church. There was an external board. And the external board is great, but they're just not there in the day-to-day running of the church or in the week-to-week. They don't have their hand on exactly what's happening, which gives a lot of freedom, which is good until something happens and you're questioned. Then you have no support locally. So I started, wrote a new constitution and bylaws for the church, and installed an interior board, a board of directors, and I have a board of overseers. Now, board of overseers are 4 pastors outside of Celebration that live right now outside of the state of Alabama, and they would get involved if something were to happen, if I messed up, or if there was an accusation brought against me. That way I'm never at odds with the people.
Understood.
So there's always someone that can step in on that, but they still love me, but they love the kingdom, and they're driven to make sure that is healthy. And then the board of directors are more in the monthly kind of things. For example, we meet once a month. We have a treasurer and we have a secretary. Secretary minutes every meeting, everything that we approve, anything that's not approved. We do a presentation of all of the money that has been spent, and but also have a third-party CPA firm that reconciles everything. And here's what I found is that people, they question, they're funny about money, right? And they're funny about their time, but they question things like that. And I thought it was real important that if people were going to support the church faithfully with their giving, that we be extremely accountable for it. And I'd learned from older leaders in my life that I'd seen make mistakes. They made mistakes with good intentions. They would move from one fund to the next. Well, that's misrepresentation of funds. It was because it was given to the church and we could just move it. There's just a little bit of difficulty in that. And even if it's not illegal, it's unethical. Right? And so integrity is all that we have. Our name is all that we have. And when that's in question, there's going to be a lot of other things in question. And so I've always tried to lead that way in authenticity, because I believe God would rather me be anything else in life than to be a pastor without integrity. So the way that we handle money is extremely important, and the way that we are accountable with it. And we can, if anyone has a question, we're open. You come in, we'll answer any question. You can see the books, you can see, I mean, we're a church, right? We're not for profit. We're not hiding anything, putting some money away, trying to be sneaky, or so everything we do.
Well, I mean, I deal with it in my line of work too.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2019 and for the past several years, the advisors that are growing and thriving are transparent. They're transparent on their fees. They're transparent how they're paid. They're transparent on what you're getting. You know where the things are, right?
Yeah.
There's murkiness.
Yes.
This thing, this kind of black box you would send this stuff into has kind of gone away. So I totally understand that.
And you'll see people, something that's become really, really popular as well is, in a church, in the way that we're set up, we support 42 individuals in missions around the world, and some on the state side, and foreign and domestic is the easiest way to say it. But 42 different individuals are doing huge things for the work of God, the kingdom, and whether it be putting wells or bringing building churches or going to unreached people groups. So into very sensitive areas that they're going in as teachers, but having underground churches. So we have that kind of impact. But used to, back when I first became a Christian, people supported, and when they support the church, they understood that was kind of what happened. But now people really buy more into causes. So they'll say, "Oh, the church looks healthy. It looks like everything's good." They don't. So if somebody starts an organization we're going to feed the hungry. Well, we may be feeding the hungry on a massive scale, joined together in an organization that's doing a massive amount instead of just one centralized. So instead of all joining together, it's like we do our own individual things. But I think we're a lot stronger together than we are trying to find our own individual thing. And so we're trying to do a better job as far as that, the percentages of which we lead and the way we financially lead. We're only going to let a certain percentage be given to staff, salaries, and things of that nature. A certain percentage will only be given to the building, upkeep, maintenance, mortgage, all of those things. And then we have a percentage for missions, a percentage for vision, and a percentage for ministries. So we split it up that way. There's a lot of thought that goes into it and accountability that we walk through.
Well, I know accountability is a big thing for you, and it's obvious that you've gone to great lengths on the business side of the church to make sure that the accountability is there. Does accountability go two directions? How do you hold the members accountable of the church? How does that work? Because I know you get a lot of drain on your time balancing the personal life and everyone else's issues.
So the way that it works for us, I don't understand how it works in all church settings, but as far as it goes for us, everything that someone does is voluntarily, whether it's serving, giving. And so when someone comes into our church and let's say they transition from a different state or town, or moved from one part of the state to here, and they transition in, sometimes a little bit of a head start. They kind of already understand everything biblically that they want to be obedient in. and they'll come through what we call next steps, and they'll come to a meet and greet. Then we'll do a next steps class. So they want to get involved, and we just kind of teach them through there that, hey, this is how the church operates. This is how we're accountable. We answer any questions that they have, and then we get them connected and a chance to serve on our serve team, which is essentially from parking lot greeting to any of the team. But there's a ton of different teams, and I think just on any given Sunday, it takes 192 different people to be able to do what we do on a weekly basis, to be able just to serve everyone they come on. And the message that they hear before they ever hear me speak, they've heard from the moment they've drove onto the campus, from the way everything looks to presentation to how people made them feel before they walk in. And so you think about it, when you go to church, being a new person, going in the first time, you have to, so we handle all of those different
terrifying.
aspects.
And I have a guilty conscience, so I'm the worst guy ever.
Paranoid. Yeah. Some people
Everybody's looking at me just like you felt.
Some people walk in the room thinking everybody's there to see them, and some people walk in the room thinking everybody here hates me. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, all right, let me ask you this as we start to wrap it up. What's the future hold for Celebration Church?
The future holds is we're more healthy than in my tenure that I've been there. We're more healthy now than we ever have been. We're going to continue to lead people in an authentic relationship with Jesus Christ. I feel like when you build the church the right way, God's going to grow it the right way. And so you'll hear different approaches that people will say, well, it's not about numbers, but souls are numbers. And so it's not an either or, it's a both and. We're going to be healthy, we're going to be accountable, and we're going to do exactly what we feel like God wants us to do. And some people will spit things, we're going to do this by 2023. We're going to do exactly what God wants us to do till there's going to be no gimmicks, no manipulation. There's going to be no this is the biggest thing you've ever seen this Sunday. We're going to be consistent, we're going to be faithful, and we're going to be authentic.
Love it. Physical address, how do people get to you?
8180 Dyer Road. So Fairhope being the size that it is, it's crazy to me to talk to someone who's been in this area all their life. And when salesmen come by, because there's that part of it too, from copier businesses and things like that, and sit down and meet with us. I never knew this was here. I grew up here my whole life. Like, you never knew Celebration was here. We throw all kinds of junk out the parades, and we're all over the place, but they're not. I've got good relationship with other churches in the area. Pastor Chris Bell at Three Circles has been a good friend to me since I first came here. He came here a little bit before I did. There at Three Circle when it was still Coates, and so thankful for friendships like that. And so it's just been a neat time, a neat opportunity.
More similarities and differences.
What about the services?
Yeah, let's talk about service times, and then we'll get some contact info out of you.
The services are 9:30 and 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. They're mirror services. We do Wednesday night Bible study every first Wednesday of the month. We do all-together service, the teenagers, the adults. We do a free meal starting at 6, service starting at 7. We worship. That's when we do communion. I feel like it's a little bit different to do communion on a Sunday where you have visitors who don't understand what's happening and expecting them to take communion for something they know nothing about. So on Wednesday night, it's more of your core, and then we have more time to explain it. Sunday's a little bit more strapped when it comes to time restraints. And so for right now, it's 9:30 and 11 on Sundays. Every first Wednesday, 6 o'clock starts the meal, 7 o'clock starts the service. And then every Wednesday, outside of that, we have CK, which is our Celebration Kids Ministry, and Collective, which is our Celebration Student Ministries. Starts at 6:30 on Wednesday nights. And then we also have nursery childcare available for all of our stuff and events that happen. And
people can find all this information on your website.
Yep, fairhopechurch.com.
Go
to fairhopechurch.com, or you can look us up on Facebook at Celebration Church in Fairhope. We have an app. It's Celebration Church Fairhope, all one word, and you'll see us as our logo. If you don't know what that looks like, it's just an arrow that's got a blue background, and you can download that. And it'll have a calendar of events, all kinds of different things that you can figure out what's going on, and you can click on, send us an email if you need to, call the church. All the numbers and all those things are there.
Perfect. Any upcoming events you want to promote?
Man, we're getting ready for our back to school and go love on some teachers, give them some stuff. We've kind of come through our summer. We have a day at OWA coming up, which is I think August 9th. We're done with our camps. Just finished our summer surge last week. Was biggest one we've had yet. It was an incredible time. So we're getting geared up for this fall. One big event that we do every year for the community that's for free is called Shindig. We'll have some local companies that will partner with us. Some of people that own companies inside the church will sponsor the event, and we do it at Valana Park, and it'll be awesome. It's been more massive every year that we've had. It's an annual event that we were able to continue.
When's it coming up?
It'll be the last Sunday before Halloween.
Okay, got it.
So
Very
there
good.
at Valana. So that's the next big, as far as big event, but every Sunday's a big day. So.
Well, I got one little joke for you before we close,
Come
but
on.
you got anything else?
No, man.
I think we covered it pretty
Yes,
well.
sir.
Yeah. So my wife went to a church where they always started and ended at the same time. So first time I ever took her to a Baptist service, she says, "Well, what time are we getting out?" I said, "Well, when that man quits preaching." So on that note, we're going to quit preaching today.
Come on.
All right. If you're a regular listener to the show, then you know that we also film our conversation and release it across multiple social media platforms. So I need two favors from y'all. Make sure that you let Pastor Johnny know that you heard or saw him on the show, because it's cool when you do that. And two, let me know if you think you got somebody to be a good guest. You'll find my contact info at the end of this show in my terribly long disclosure. In closing, I want to thank my guest, Pastor Johnny Hunt of Celebration Church here in Fairhope, for joining us today. You did a great job. As well as all of y'all out there listening, I am Josh Knoll, Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. This has been Focus on the 5. Have a great day.
Thank you,
We're
man.
out.
Thank you for listening to Focus on the 5. If you are interested in learning more about Josh Knoll and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, you can find us at gulfcoastfa.com, call 251-327-2124, email josh.knoll@gulfcoastfa.com, or message us on Facebook. Focus on the 5 is produced by Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. Advisory services offered through Investment Advisors, a division of Pro Equities Inc., a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Pro Equities Inc., a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Pro Equities Inc. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Focus on the 5 offers commentary and generalized research, not personalized investment advice. Show content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a complete description of our investment services or performance. All investments involve risk and unless otherwise stated are not guaranteed. Be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any investment strategy.